Yeah, I mean, that's literally all you can do. You can fall into the crowd and be like everybody else and be negative and sad. And I'm blessed, you know what I mean? I'm blessed to be able to play this game. I would play if I had made $0 doing it. I love doing this. I live it every day. So it doesn't stop me, you know what I mean? The outside world's going to try to find everything to bring us down. And rightfully so after a game like that. Like, it's, we got to find ways to get better. And it sucks for the fans. I want them to see the best version of us, and we haven't been able to do that. So, unfortunately, we lost, but we have to, respond. You know what I mean? That's literally all you can do.
And, of course, that was Max Crosby, Raiders defensive end, after today's disappointing, demoralizing, really, 32-13 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Raiders' second straight loss, and their fourth in 6 games. Certainly not the start that the Raiders were hoping for. That's for darn sure for the third straight year. They got to dig themselves out of an early season hole. I am Vinny Bonsignore. This is Adam Hill here live from Allegiant Stadium, Vegas Nation. 1st and 10, just a quick reminder, all of Vegas Nation podcasts are brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos, STN Sports, and we thank them for their support. Adam Hill, just another ugly day for the Raiders. 4 back-breaking penalties, all of which led to some type of a score. 3 turnovers, 2 that the Steelers turned into 14 points. Some head-scratching coaching decisions, poor tackling, giving up a lot of rushing yards. Again, 183 yards rushing, the 5th time in 6 games. The Raiders have surrendered 100 or more yards rushing in a game. Basically, it's the same story over and over again in these losses. Just the Raiders continually shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, it's almost like that just is what they are.
Yeah, right.
I mean, every week we keep sitting here and saying like, oh, they did this and they did this and they've got to figure that out. Well, maybe this just is what they are. Maybe they're just not a good team, and I think that's what kind of was thought about this team going into the year. It's when the players and the fans and everybody's mad about everybody's predicting us
fire this guy.
Well, they're only predicting us to have 6 wins, or what are they saying about why are they disrespecting us? Well, maybe that's just what you are,
right?
And that's kind of what we've seen so far, and there's been a lot of troubles, as you mentioned. We talk about 3 phases. It's offense, it's defense. Defense has been okay at times. Offense has been okay at times. Special teams good at times for the most part. The kickers, the coverage team, not so great. There's also a 4th one, the coaching, which hasn't been great either. And I'm referring to Antonio Pierce and Luke Getsy. And, I think Patrick Graham, for the most part, is doing a fairly good job. But they're also putting themselves in bad positions. I mean, I was talking to a player after the game, trying to remember exactly who it was. I talked to so many guys, but Clavon Chason, I believe, said, look, we pride ourselves on being this unbelievable defense. And, yeah, sometimes the team's getting the ball in good field position, but it's our job to stop them.
Right.
It's our job to take the ball away or force a turnover or something, and we're not doing that either. So you can say, well, the defense has been put in bad positions, and they have, but they also haven't come through and done their job the way that they wanted to do. The offense certainly has not been consistent at all, and didn't change today. Quarterback change didn't really make a difference.
No.
And coaching staff, I think, has made a lot of questionable decisions throughout the time, too. So maybe they're just not a good team.
Yeah, across the board, and I completely agree with you. In terms of the turnovers, they're not a good enough team to the penalties. Let's start with that. They're not a good enough team to overcome the kind of penalties that they had today. And we're talking about bone-crushing penalties.
There's 4 penalties in the game. So here's the thing. Last week, the Raiders have been really good at avoiding penalties. Last week, they weren't. They had a ton of penalties at 11, I believe, that were accepted. They had more than that they committed.
Correct.
And they said limit penalties. Don't commit penalties. Let's clean that up. And for the most part, they did. They didn't have one until late in the second quarter, and they only had 4 in the entire game. That's good. But all 4 were brutally crushing. You start with the first one, comes on. The first penalty of the game, Divine Diablo gets an interception. Looks like the Raiders are going to get the ball back. Remember, only 7-6 at this time.
Yeah.
So they're down 7-6.
They're up
7-6. Up 7-6 late in the second quarter. There's an interception, and it gets wiped out. And that was Matthew Butler falling on top of Justin Fields. I think you could say, hey, he was kind of pushed into him a little bit. He stumbled into him, but it's an automatic call when you fall. The body weight falls on the quarterback. It's an automatic call. Pretty unfortunate, but that is the rule the way that it is, and there's another one later on that we'll talk about as well. So that happens. That's demoralizing. 2 plays later, Pittsburgh, I think it was maybe 4 plays later, Pittsburgh scores a touchdown. So it goes from being up 7-6 with the ball to now you're down 12-7, assuming for 2 points there for some reason. So it's 12-7, now you're down. Really, really, really tough penalty. Start the third quarter. You get a big play to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, who's not really this kind of guy, just fires up the crowd. He throws the ball down. He's celebrating. He's getting everybody fired up, turns around, notices there's a flag. So this big play,
Andre James.
this big play turns into a penalty that comes the other way. So instead of being in Pittsburgh territory, again, only down 5 points, now they have to back up.
It's 1st and 20.
They get their punt blocked.
Which, by the way, real quick, not to cut you off there, 1st and 20 run, 2nd and 18 run. They gained 3 yards right there. Why are they running the ball in that situation? I don't know. You got 20 yards.
I mean, they have negative EPA per play passing. So, I mean, running for 2 yards is almost better than a pass play for them.
You and your
it's
stats.
not good. Exactly. So,
either way,
yes,
I agree.
I agree.
It probably tells a bigger picture of the lack of confidence.
I'm never a run the ball guy ever, but you know what? At that point, I think at that point, almost all right. We're not going to get a first down from 1st and 20. We're going to have to punt. Let's just not put our punter in a bad position, and then he gets the punt block. First punt block in his career.
Correct.
For AJ Cole. So you think you're going to kind of flip the field over there, and it doesn't happen because you get the punt block, then they score again. You mentioned another one which happens. There's a illegal man downfield on what was a touchdown originally.
Jackson Powers
Johnson is called for it. I think he's only called for it because Andre James was even further downfield, but he was engaged in a block. It was a really complicated play.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to going back and watching this because there's a lot of discussion after the game in the locker room of the rule.
Yeah.
The rule is you have 1 yard. A lot of people are saying you have 5 yards. You have 1 yard.
Right.
But if you're engaged in a block before that 1 yard, you're allowed to go downfield and push your guy downfield.
Yeah, if you're pancaking a guy
what
or just
kind of
moving
happened,
around.
it looked like with Jackson Powers Johnson, and again, I only saw this live. I have to go back and watch. But it looked like he had his guy blocking him
did.
downfield, and then he disengages. So he almost wins the block. He's downfield, and then he looks around and realizes, oh, no, I'm just down here. I stopped blocking the guy. And, again, you're technically allowed to if you're engaged, but then once you disengage, he kind of spun around and looked for where to go. It was really, letter of the law, probably the right call. Again, I need to watch it again. Really, really tough call to go against you. And, again, Andre James is further downfield. He's blocking. I think that's maybe why they threw the flag. There was confusion originally about who the flag was even on.
Yeah,
so that's tough.
The long and short of it is that negates
touchdown.
An Alexander Manderson 6-yard touchdown pass completion.
And then they get inside the 1. We can discuss whether they should have challenged or not. There's a couple things that go into that. But then they fumble the next play, and they don't score. When they instead of getting a touchdown, they get nothing. They fumbled, demoralizing play there. And then the other one was a 3rd and 18 play. I believe just before that, third quarter, Clavon Chason has Justin Fields already wrapped up when he throws it. He then follows through and brings him to the ground. Not much contact.
On an
definitely not much.
pass.
I thought it was complete, but it was short.
It was very short.
It was short. So it would have been a
throw,
punt for the Steelers.
Yes.
Instead, 3rd and 18. Again, just play it safe.
Yeah.
And man, there was one earlier, and I mentioned it to you, that another 3rd and very long, I think 3rd and 20 earlier, where there was a pass to the flat. Robert Spillane made a good play. But you have to be nothing's called. He didn't commit a penalty. That's fine. But why are you challenging a receiver at the catch point when he's going to be 20 yards short of the first down and taking the chance you're going to get called for a penalty? They don't. But later on, Chason drags Fields down on a 3rd and 18. Would have had to be a punt, just a simple play. Instead, they call a 15-yard penalty. Now, here's the thing. Not a lot of contact. I get it. It was very late, sure. But I talked to Chason about it after, and he said, I have to be better. We literally had a meeting this week where they told us these refs, this particular officiating crew, loves to make that call. They love it. When you drag somebody down late, they're looking for that. That's one of the things they focus on. He's like, and I knew that, and I still did it. Not acceptable.
The analytics of refereeing, officiating, scouting, which is a real thing, and obviously it bit the Raiders in a place that they don't want to be bit, and it really did hurt them.
I think we're focusing on these four penalties, these major plays, which are big factors.
Right.
There was a whole lot more that went wrong there, and I know. I mentioned one of the things there we can get back to is that they get inside the 1 yard line on Amir Abdullah. They elect not to challenge.
From at least what I was seeing on replay, and I only saw it a couple times. I'll go back and look at it. It looked like, at the very least, it was a call. It was a challenge that I think the Raiders needed to make, because you never know what might happen in the booth. And I felt like there was a decent chance. Now, Adam heard the
I went back and watched the
on-air
TV.
Referee.
I think it was Terry McCauley said he doesn't think they would have won the challenge.
But we've seen that a million times before too, where that guy who's supposed to be the expert is wrong. So,
but to me, and I know you referenced this as well. The issue is not whether they challenged or not, and they decided not to, and they didn't, and
They didn't
probably
give
should
themselves
have.
enough time.
They didn't. They hurry up to the line of scrimmage and run a play very quickly instead of, hey, what do you like? And I know that Antonio Pierce said, hey, he asked upstairs. He said they weren't sure, so they didn't do it. But how about, all right, back off. Let's give them a chance to look at the replay 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
Should we challenge this? How should this go? They don't. Now, as Amir Abdullah said, I just have to take the next handoff and score. Like, I can't worry about what happened on the last play. I just have to take this one and go score. Instead, gets a little loose with the ball. T.J. Watt knocks it out, and they don't get it in then. And by the way, at that point, it's early fourth quarter. First play of the fourth quarter, still 22-7. It's only a 2-score game at that point. Could have got within 1 score. They don't, and at that point, it's pretty much over. But again, we're harping on all these little plays, and you can take each one of those and say, well, that's just one play in a big scheme of things, and that it is. There's a lot of things that went wrong from start. Not really from the start. They played really well the first quarter, but a lot of mistakes, a lot of shooting themselves in the foot. Just not a lot of success out on the field for the Raiders.
Right, and it's becoming a recurring theme of the self-inflicted wounds, the shooting themselves in the foot, Raider on Raider crime, call it whatever you want. But it's becoming a trend with this young football team, and as we've mentioned, and I think the Raiders would be the first to admit this, they're not good enough. No. Few teams are, but certainly not this team. With the challenging play that they get at quarterback, the injuries that they now have, again, to themselves, maybe not enough to be a losing team, but you add the injuries to the inefficient play that they're getting at quarterback, to the sloppy tackling, to the ill-timed penalties that we've seen the last 2 weeks and especially this week. The turnovers, they're worse in the league with a now -10 turnover differential. They've committed 12 turnovers. They've only got 2 takeaways. You're not going to win games, Adam, especially as challenged as they are offensively, especially with the injuries and especially with their quarterback play with that kind of turnover differential.
Yeah, it's tough for good teams to win. And
they rarely do.
Not a good team.
Yeah.
So, they're putting themselves in very, very
and
tough
as Adam
positions.
said, maybe they're just a bad team that's doing bad team type things with the turnovers, and that's just a rough pill to swallow. But it is what it is at the end of the day, as people like to say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, a couple of things to wrap up. We'll tie up some loose ends in the game and talk about how they move forward from this as they get ready to play the Rams next week.
Adam mentioned that they play the Rams. Then it's to
I think they're back here for
the
a
Kansas
game.
City
They got
Chiefs.
Kansas City after Thanksgiving.
And then Cincinnati.
Yeah.
No, it goes
There's
Rams,
another one
Kansas
in
City, Cincinnati.
Oh, Kansas City here.
Week.
You're right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Right. So it doesn't get any easier. The Raiders are 2-5. 2-4. Who knows? Maybe I'll be prophetic and say 2-5. But this is shaping up as another ugly season. We don't know what's going to happen with Devontae Adams.
I mean, you mentioned those 3 games. The Rams next week is a lot of injuries there, so we'll see. I mean, if you thought going into the year Rams versus Raiders, and you could say, well, potentially no Devontae Adams, no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua, no Jacoby Myers,
right? Which
is pretty wild. But Jacoby Myers could be back for sure, and the Rams receivers could be back too. But that's a game you could win. But if you don't, you're absolutely staring in the face of 2-7 going into the bye.
Yeah, and eventually, if that is the case, we're going to have to start really taking some deep dives on the college quarterbacks that are out there.
Probably should have already happened.
Yes,
because I do think. Look, one of the things, and it's not a positive for sure. I'm not saying this is a positive, but one of the things I think today answers is there's so many people, and every time we write something, every time we do a podcast, anything, it's they stink, but if they had Aiden O'Connell, they'd be great. There's your answer. See the field right behind it? You got your answer.
Right.
That was not the issue. It was never the issue. Aiden O'Connell might have a good game here and there. He wasn't going to save the season or turn things around. And at least if there's any good thing that comes out of this game, I think it's at least people can say, all right, let's analyze the team for what it is, and not sit there and say, yes, but if Aiden O'Connell was there.
Yeah, and Adam and I disagree on who. I didn't feel like either of the quarterbacks necessarily won the quarterback battle in training camp. Adam thinks that Gardner Minshew was decidedly better. That is what it is. It's fine. But neither one, by any stretch of the imagination, is the quarterback of the future.
I would say in training camp, and look, we're at every day of training camp. We saw everything the coaches did. We don't get to watch practice now, but we did then. I thought Gardner Minshew was bad.
Yeah,
and
that's
Aiden O'Connell was worse.
Yeah,
and that's what it was.
Yes, Adams, as you know, they both were bad, and Adam felt, I guess, he was the least bad of the two quarterbacks.
And look, I think we were also, this potentially is why, and I don't think the defense is awful. I think they're pretty good. They're not able to force turnovers. That's one issue for sure. They've actually been really, really good on third down.
Yeah,
one of the best teams in the league on third down
Except
this year. If
when
you're
they're
trying
making
to find
penalties.
Sure, if you're trying to find a silver lining, I guess you could look at that. But
there also haven't probably been a whole lot of.
But think of how many turnovers the defense forced in training camp. I mean, it was every day, turnover after turnover.
I think
after
we kind of have
turnover.
our answer on why that was.
I think we all see why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. You know, look, you can't sugarcoat it, and it is a tough pill to swallow. But I think that before long, the Raiders have to get. And to me, it always starts with the quarterback position, even with the learning curve and how tough it might be on a young quarterback. At some point, the Raiders need to do that in a legitimate way, not in a hope and a prayer kind of a way. And I think that's what they're doing with Aiden O'Connell. And I think Gardner Minshew is your classic stopgap, or just a really good not a really good backup, but a viable backup quarterback. And you definitely need to have that. But neither one of them are the guys that you're going to move forward with. That said, the Raiders still have, 11 more games left to play. They've played 6. They've got 11 more. They're going to try to make the most of the opportunities that they have in the game.
I'll say this. Max Crosby actually stopped himself and kind of laughed because it's actually still early in the season. And I think he was just kind of like, a lot of these games left.
Right. And who knows?
His point, to be fair, his point was a lot of time to turn it around and get better.
For sure.
I think our analysis is, it's probably not going to get much better.
Yeah.
But you do have to play all these games.
Right. Exactly. We'll be back with you guys next week. By then, I do believe that Tom Brady is going to be a limited partner owner of the Raiders. And as I've been told, I think people are underestimating the role that he's going to have in things. It's not about the 10% that he's buying; it's what percent of Mark Davis's attention is he getting out of this in terms of an advisory role, somebody that's going to have input in the football decisions. At least the people that I talk to believe it's going to be bigger than people think. So who knows? Maybe there's a silver lining in that. I know that Tom Brady creates some emotion with Raider Nation, and I get it and I understand it. But this is a guy that's been in winning programs for a while now.
It'll be just like when Michael Jordan went in ownership, and he won how many titles?
Well, but Michael Jordan, I have my thoughts on that. There's also plenty. Jerry West was a big winner, and he was able to be a great executive. And I'm not saying that Tom's going to be an executive, but I think he's going to have a say in bigger picture items like coaching decisions and direction and things like that. So I don't think he's going to be the guy that's scouting at the scouting combine or anything like that. But I do think he's going to have a say in the football operations and the direction. And let's face it, the Raiders have been floundering around in that regard for a while now. Maybe that's somebody that makes more sense to listen to than maybe some others that the Raiders have been listening to over the last few years. We'll see where that all goes, but we're going to talk about that midweek this week when we get together again, talk about the Rams, talk about Tom Brady's ownership, and where the Raiders go from here. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. This is Adam Hill. Thanks to Heidi Fang, our great producer. We're at Allegiant Stadium. Thank you guys for all the support. We appreciate it. Allegiant Stadium, another loss. We'll talk to you guys next week.